Beware of people who have something to hide. There is nothing wrong with concealing information. There isn't. If you are a high school teacher or a university professor, you need to hide information. Which information? The answers to the test or the answers to the exam. Because if you would release the answers to the exam, what's the use of having an exam? It won't reach its goal of training the students. The students need to be trained. That's why you have an exam. In order for the exam to work, or rather, in order for the examination to be successful, you need to hide what the answers are to the questions. Or let's say you are a police officer and there is a homicide investigation. You need to hide key information in order to trigger people to reveal who they are. If you would reveal all information about the case, then the perpetrators are informed how far the investigation is and they can anticipate their escape. So, if there's a police investigation, it's obvious that you need to hide things. Or if you are a doctor, you work at a hospital, you have to hide some information because you have creeps out there who want to take advantage of someone else's health. Or if you are in the banking sector, in the financial sector, then you need to hide information from people who are not quote-unquote authorized, which is just a concept we made up, but it's practical because some people just want to take advantage of others. And that's why you have to hide information for some people if you work in certain fields. So concealing information in itself, there's nothing wrong with it. God himself conceals information from us if we're not ready to process it. I mean, if you are in a dangerous situation and you have a small kid who's 3 years old, let's say that there's someone with a gun waving around and you have to escape from the shop or whatever, wherever the robbery is going on. Are you going to explain the whole situation to a 3-year-old? No. You expect the 3-year-old to trust you and to bring the child into safety, and later, when a 3-year-old is a bit older, you can tell him or her what happened. Now they can think, now I understand why we had to leave that shop so quickly. So concealing information is not wrong in itself. But the question is, why? That is what it's about. Why is information concealed? Now, information can be concealed for the right reasons, or people hide information because they have something to hide. A right reason is when it's necessary, or when it's better to hide something. With better, I mean if someone's not able to process it yet, then you spare a lot of trouble by not revealing it yet. For example, if someone's parent was a drug addict or whatever, and the parent just passed away and people figured out that this individual had a double life, you're not going to reveal it when there is a funeral. You will wait till a few months after the funeral, then you will reveal it, because then they may be more able to handle it. Just know that just because something is hidden doesn't mean it's correct for it to be hidden. Let's say, for example, there is a pandemic in a country and people are restricted in moving around to hinder the spread of the virus. Then it is necessary for the public to know how many people there are infected in the community. That information should be public. If it's not public, then something's wrong. Now, people may not need to know exactly who is infected directly, because if there are thousands of people infected, they're not going to remember all the thousands of names. Of course not, but at least give a rightful estimation to people. In that case, when that information is hidden, you should ask yourself why. And the fact that you need to ask yourself why it's hidden already shows you that something is wrong. Now, why am I talking about concealing information? It's because when people have something to hide, it is because whatever they're hiding would cause them to lose something they're holding on to in the present. I watched this Netflix series once, I believe. How long was it ago? Well, I don't know. I watched this Netflix series after each other, all the episodes, and it went like this. A teenager is found in a swimming pool. He died. When the father comes home, he figured out that his daughter had this wild party where drugs was involved. So the father, who had a reputation as a businessman, he decided, you know what, we're going to dump the body somewhere else, pretending that something else happens. Now eventually they figured out that the teenager died in that swimming pool. But I'm not going to spoil everything. I'm going to covertly reveal what actually happened is that eventually there was a secret that several people of that town were hiding. And that secret, if it would come out, it would ruin their daily lives and it would destroy the social cohesion of the community. Some crime that happened around 2 decades ago. I believe it was 2 decades ago. Now, one of the perpetrators of that crime 2 decades ago ended up being the one that killed that guy. So, you have all these things unfolding in the series, but there's one main message in that series that you need to remember. Well, I watched the series, so I captured the message, but I'm telling it to you now. People that have something to hide will become dangerous when they think they're hiding is exposed. When they realize that whatever they're holding on to will escape from them, or it will be ruined, or they will lose it, when they realize they're about to lose, they'll lose it. Because there's another thing in the world that has a core of truth to it. When people have nothing left to lose, they lose it. And that's the thing. People that have something to hide, they hide it because they have something to lose. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's a reputation, or whether it's some leverage you have in the community. And they know that without that thing, they would fall apart mentally because they rely for their mental ease on the thing that they don't want to lose. Whatever it is that they don't want to lose is also something that they rely on. For example, let's say you have a couple and they have children and they're living a quote-unquote happy family life. Well, actually they have an image of being a happy family. They have their issues behind the scenes, like all families do. But let's say that the wife used to be involved with the current chief of police in that town when they were still in college or whatever. And let's say now that the wife broke up with the guy and that she actually wanted to go back to the guy, but the guy already had another girlfriend, and that's why she wanted comfort and she found another guy that she ended up marrying. So her marriage is based on seeking relief from a heartbreak. So she never really liked her current husband. It's more that she wanted to fit into society. But she still has affection for her ex, who's now married also. That is something she wants to hide. Why? Because her current situation as a married woman in the community grants her respect, it grants her validation. Respect is fearful validation, but I mentioned them separately because when I say validation, people tend to think very broad. She relies on it for her income, for her stability. But she still did not give up her longings to that other man. If this comes out, her life as a married woman, her stability is over. So, the fact that she is cheating on her husband is something she wants to hide. So she has something she doesn't want to lose, which is her stability in the community that relies on her being a married woman. And that's why she needs to hide that other thing that would ruin that thing she's holding on to. When people have nothing left to lose, there's no reason for them to comply with safety nor justice. That is why the world's leaders came up with this myth called privacy, just to grant people a sense of entitlement when it comes to hiding who they are. Because the whole concept of privacy comes down to you wanting to control others. You want to control what others know about you because what others know about you will determine how they see you. And how they see you is how they will treat you. So you want to know who other people are, but you don't want them to know who you are. So you want to conceal yourself, but you want to know who they are. So it's hypocritical. It's a double standard. You want to know who you're dealing with, but you don't want others to know who they are dealing with. So it's narcissistic. But this concept called privacy is invented so that people feel entitled, being this hypocrite. Why? Because when people feel entitled, being this hypocrite, and this entitlement is protected by society, they will less likely lose it and commit atrocities. Just know that when someone has something to hide, eventually they'll escalate and eventually they'll commit atrocities just to protect the thing they don't want to lose. And here's the thing, if the thing they don't want to lose, if they lose it, then they themselves will lose it mentally. And when they lose it mentally, everyone around is in danger. That's why when you notice someone is quite secretive, and there's no reason for it, ask yourself what's going on. Or when someone suddenly doesn't like you or don't like someone else, that's also a red flag. Listen, people, when they have something to hide, because they don't want to admit that they're vulnerable and they don't have control, they will look for a distraction so that others won't pay attention to them. So, if they have control issues because they cling onto control, this is the fact that they don't want to face about themselves. So, when there are other people around who doesn't give in to their control urges, they become upset because now they are forced to face themselves. Now, suddenly they don't like that other individual. You may have, for example, a migrant that grew up in a host society and he now has influence, he's doing talk shows, and he has a successful career. Then you have a native of that society who is a bit older saying, what does this migrant think he is? Yeah, I know he has successful talk shows, but we know it by now. I really can't stand that guy and all of that. They can think, what's going on here? That older individual who's a native, he wasted chances and potential during his lifetime. Why? Because he was so focused on feeling relieved because he's not like someone who's worse off. He based his identity on feeling at ease at someone else's expense. And now there's an individual from the group that he got narcissistic supply from that's doing better than he is doing. So now this false image of themselves, this false self as they call it in psychology, is destroyed. And that's all they had. So now they need to deal with all the regret, all the frustration, and all the bitterness they've accumulated over time. And because they don't want to deal with any of these things, they want to hide that they have bitterness, they want to hide that they have regret issues, and they want to hide that they have a defective thinking. So now they become upset with someone else that triggers what they need to lose. What they need to lose are all those issues because they need deliverance. But because they don't want to face themselves, that's the main defect they want to hide. So now they want to put negative attention on someone else so nobody looks at them. So when you have someone who has a strong dislike towards someone else, that's a red flag. Anytime anyone doesn't like you or they have something against you, it's because they have something that they are hiding. And whatever will keep someone in check is if that thing that they want to hide will be exposed. If someone makes you a target of their anger or whatever, it is because they're hiding something. And the one thing they fear the most is exposure. So when they are targeting you, and slowly but slowly, them targeting you will lead to them being exposed. When they see the connection, they'll stop targeting you. Suddenly, they want to be friends with you. Suddenly, they want you all to forget the past. That's how they are in this world. So when someone has something to hide, realize that eventually they'll become dangerous. Now, as I mentioned before, there are legitimate reasons to hide something. There's nothing wrong with that. If your son, for example, was in an argument or a fight with someone else, and that individual comes to your house to ask where your son is, and your son's at home, you knowing that they had you know that they had a fight before, you're not going to say my son's at home because you know what the intention of the individual is. You will conceal the fact your son is at home by giving misinformation just to de-escalate the situation. Or if there's a genocide going on in a country and a certain minority is targeted and some people of that minority are hiding at your place against a danger, let's say an police officer who's part of the genocide program knocks on your door, are you going to tell them that you have people hiding from genocide in your house? No, of course not. You will deter the officer away with false information or misinformation just to protect the lives of those in your care. So there are times it's legitimate to hide things. But when it's not legitimate, ask yourself what is at stake. And when you realize that someone has something to hide, or better said, when a group of people have something to hide, especially then you need to watch out. Because one individual having something to hide can be dangerous when they escalate. When a group of people have something to hide or something they don't want to face and they lose it, you'll have lynchings, you'll have riots, you'll have all kinds of bad stuff happening to the community. So, when you're talking to someone or communicating with someone, pay attention to their attitude. If they suddenly become annoyed or they so-called turn on other people, ask yourself, what are they hiding? You don't have to ask them directly because probably they won't tell you what they're hiding, or else they wouldn't be hiding. But when you notice someone has something to hide, notice it. And if it's possible for you to figure out what they're hiding, figure it out. If it's not possible, just remain in prayer and keep your safe distance. Because people that have something to hide, when they lose whatever they didn't want to lose, they lose it. Well, that's it for now. Keep agreeing with Christ and be at peace.